Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Life is Kel. It's all about me, Kel, and my life. And a huge part of my life is my dream of becoming a filmmaker. And I figured that this year, the only way to do that is to just dive headfirst into it. I did that this weekend by producing my very first product video in the comfort of my own home. This video, I'm going to walk you through behind the scenes and kind of the inspiration behind the video. But first, I'd like to show you the final product.
The most illustrious podcast in the world, just an extension of the most illustrious Raleigh brand in the world. It's the Bodega Boys, baby.
Bodega Boys.
With the camera, aka the Human Durag, aka Donovan McDad, aka Curve Gotti, aka Triz Khalifa. You know what I'm saying? AKA skirt loader, jump the curb, hit your fucking baby Maltese, and keep it moving. Nigga, ask me if I give a fuck. I do not. AKA
The Moreno, you cannot contain the human meme. Where's the young error on the racist provocateur Henry Plus. Nelson Mandela, Sergio can't see me vulnerable for the human world is melting in your mouth. Mr. Beck on deck to Ricky Tiki Squad be great.
I'm told we have some breaking news coming in right now. I'm being told the brand is strong.
So the inspiration for this video came out of a style by a guy named Daniel Schiffer. He makes these awesome videos for brands and small businesses, usually in the comfort of his own home, especially during the start of quarantine. And what he's able to do with just limited gear and his creativity astounds me. So I decided to kind of give it a shot. Now this video, as you saw, is way tuned down to what he produces, but it's a start. So I figured we'd go step by step through the video. I'll show you the choices I made and why, and how to execute them as well. So for this video, I did purchase a few items, but I mostly used what I had at home. So this main setup, I used a lighting kit that was gifted to me back in high school. It comes with 2 studio lights, 2 umbrella lights, a backdrop stand, and some curtains, like a green screen backdrop, a black backdrop, and a white backdrop. For this video, I tried at first to use the green screen backdrop, and when I brought it into Premiere Pro, it just looked so digital, and maybe I didn't execute it the right way, but it just looked so cheesy and fake. So I was like, now we're going all black for this one. But I did decide to add some color, and I did that by using these floodlights that I got off of Amazon and just splashing them on the black background to kind of give these first opening shots a little bit of color. We have 3 desks in our living room, so I pulled just one of them into the center of the room, draped the back curtain over that, and we were good to go. I also bought this rotating display off of Amazon, again for like 30-40 bucks. I specifically bought this for product videography because, you know, everybody loves that like cinematic, slow turns, and I didn't want to have to like manually move a Lazy Susan, so I bought this rotating table for that. When I first set this up, I planned to use one of the big lights, but I realized as I was looking for inspiration on YouTube that a lot of the filmmakers that create videos like this use like a big dome overhead light, and I didn't really feel like making my boyfriend Joshua stand with the light overhead of the product. So I was like, you know what, we're just gonna use one light. And the light I used was the Aperture M9. It's this nifty small little light that Joshua got me for Christmas, and it's perfect. Keep in mind, this is my first time doing this, so would the execution have been better if I used one of those big overhead studio lights? Probably, but you know, we're working with what we have here. So other than that, I just had my tripod, these 2 floodlights like I mentioned, and the Aperture M9 along with that rotating plate, and then of course the product. So Daniel Schiffer was like the creative inspiration behind this, but I decided to feature Deezus and Mero's Timberland boots because they're a duo that we follow and have followed for a few years now, and we love their show, we love their podcast, and we kind of wanted to just pay homage to all the joy that they bring us and show off their dope boots. Keep in mind, I say I've never done something like this before, and when I say something like this, I mean a product video while using this style of in-camera transitions that Daniel Schiffer is known for. So I tried to do this style transition in post with my Imperfect Foods video, and it kind of worked by using keyframes and moving the scales and the positions of things, but it was a lot easier, surprisingly, to do it all in camera because the only thing I had to do in post was then scale things if I needed to and then use speed ramping. In-camera transitions, basically you transition into something, get your shot, and then transition out, and then the next shot you have to keep the momentum of the exit of the last shot and keep that in mind when you're entering the first shot. So for this video, you can see I kind of did like a left to right kind of circular thing. So basically with my camera, I just went you know, if you're the product, I just went swoop in, swoop out, you know, and then, yeah, and that was it. That's what I did for all the shots. I eventually will get more creative with this, but you just have to start somewhere. So in the source monitor, this is what this looked like. And quite honestly, I couldn't figure out how to mask this out. And I know that like that's a really popular thing and technique to use in these types of videos, but I honestly didn't really feel like looking it up or figuring out how to do it. So that'll be kind of like a task for my next video. So that's why I went with the square format here, because when I play it through, you can barely see the rotating bottom. Now, the con to that is you're cutting off a lot of the shoe here. Like a square format isn't enough to encompass like the whole boot, but because it's rotating, I figured I could kind of get away with it. So this first shot, I used a tripod. I just let it do its thing. And on the back, I splashed blue and red. Now, I used blue and red because those are the Deezus and Mero brand colors. If I were to do this again, I don't know that I would use these colors necessarily, but you know, I wanted to incorporate the branding somehow in kind of a creative way, but you know, we learn for next time. Again, my approach here is to just create with the knowledge that I have, and then evaluate, learn more, and try again. So this first shot, you can see that there's a lot of noise in this image. As it plays through, you can see here, it's like, it's called noise. It's like very grainy. And that's because I shot this with the ISO way too high. I think it was at 1600. And it definitely didn't need to be. I use the Panasonic GH5, and that camera's native ISO is 400. So that's where I'm going to get like the best image quality and sharpness. So this one I did shoot at a lower ISO, and you can tell that there's much less noise. So here we go through the beginning. And I'm going to just talk about the techniques first and then go back into sound design. So this like glitch effect, super easy to create. All I did was go here, and at each frame, I would make a cut. And then what I did from there is I just removed every other frame and then had the other video go under it. So that is what you get. These type of shots are really good when you have like the same thing or then the same position, but like a different color, or like night and day. I like that little like glitch effect, and I didn't have to use any presets or anything for that. So that was good. So what I did here was a bit of a speed ramp. So I shot this all in 120 frames per second because the GH5 does that really well. And I did that because I wanted to be able to really manipulate the speed, and the best way to execute those in-camera transitions is not only the technique you use when filming, but the speed ramping and the editing part of it too. So let's see. So as you can see, I had a regular speed here, sped it up, and slowed it back down for the transition. So this is when we start getting into that like Daniel Schiffer style stuff. The way you execute these transitions is you go really quickly in the beginning, have it gradually slow down, and then go really quickly at the end. And I love how clean this look is when you go from one to the other. It works really well when you're just illuminating a product in a black background. If you're like in broad daylight and you're at like a park, let's say, and I go from like, say there's like a brown tree over here. If I do an in-camera transition from this left side, I focus on my subject, and then I go to the right. When I exit, that's what's going to be in that frame is something brown because of the brown tree. So ideally, the next scene would start with something brown when you enter, so it's got more of a seamless transition. This was super easy to do because everything was just black on black. So we go into the detail of the boots here. I decided to do it, you know, all one boot and then the other. The reason I chose to do this boot first is because this is Mero's boot, and I chose to do Mero's boot first because this is the last one we see featured. I didn't really want to go like Deezus Mero. I wanted to be a little bit more, to flow a little nicer here. So there we go. We go into the tab here. Again, this same technique is used. It's a pretty simple edit. Like the same technique is used throughout the entire thing. And then so for this one, there were some shots I didn't want to continue this style of like in and out for more than like 3 shots at a time. Because I know when I watch videos like this, like if it's going in the same direction too, it can get kind of stale. If I were to like go to the right and then down or something like that and switch it up that way, that would also be acceptable. But I decided to just kind of go with like a little bit of a different shot. So this shot here, if we look in the source monitor, this was just a static shot, but I wanted to kind of keep the momentum of going left to right in a way. So I just took this clip and let's look at the effects controls here, keyframed in a rotation so it would kind of do this circular motion. And I made sure that this shot, even though this next shot right here doesn't have a circular motion to it, it flows because it's still zooming out. So we have a spin zoom out, and then we have a regular zoom out, and then I do that glitch effect again to transition to the boots. This Timberland logo on Deez's boot wasn't a zoom out, it was just a static shot, so I made sure to kind of add the keyframes and zoom out on the shot as well. So here you get that outward movement. Now I switch it up by going from north to south instead of east to west, or west to east rather. I go up and down. So we get the tab, you go down, and it goes down again to the Dizemero shoelace plate. And then this one worked, again, because it was going from a black background, and it kind of still had a downward movement. We go from down to kind of over to the right. Goes there. So this should be the last shot, but it's not. And I'll explain why, and if I could go back and do it again, I wouldn't have done it this way. But let me explain my thought process. Now this last shot, all I did here was I had Joshua take the Aperture M9 and just kind of wave it over the product while I slowly pushed in. And again, it was shot at 120 frames per second, so I love that it's just like this gradual lighting up of the product. Now, if I didn't have the light directly on it, you wouldn't get this glare here. So that's something I would do differently. I do like the shot, but to keep it consistent, I would have definitely brought back those background colors. I would have put the blue and the red in the background. Not only would it help separate the outline of the shoes and the boxes get lost without a kicker light, so I would definitely bring those back in and illuminate the background a little more. And then it cuts to the Timberland and Dizemero combined logo. Now, you'd think this would be the last shot, which it should be, but, and I regret doing this, the song was a little bit longer than I had anticipated. So instead of just like gradually fading it out like I should have, or kind of Frankensteining the song down here to make it end when I wanted to, I just added another shot at the end. Do I expect people to see that shot? Not really. It's kind of pointless. And if I saw a video that had this, I'd be like, you know, every shot has to have a purpose, and that is just a purposeless shot. It's like when you think a commercial's over and then all of a sudden you get this bonus shot and you're like, why did we even see that? So now time for the sound design. My creative concept here was to kind of bring life to this video by adding Dizemero's voices because it's their product, it's their brand, and I wanted to kind of represent them. So I picked, let's listen to the song first. I picked kind of like this hip hop song. It gives me some like Bronx vibes. That's where they're from, New York vibes. I love that. And so it also seemed like it had enough cuts and like cool little transitions for me to add to this product video. So let's go to this track first. So I start off with like a general introduction to their brand by him saying like, what's up? It's the Bodega Boys kind of thing.
The most illustrious podcast in the world, just an extension of the most illustrious brolic brand in the world. It's the Bodega Boys,
Just
baby.
one of the
They have this thing they always say. They go, yeah. It's a New York thing. You wouldn't get it. But I extracted that audio and I kind of like repeated it here, and here. So when we go listen to just the two tracks, you hear kind of the introduction.
The most illustrious podcast in the world, just an extension of the most illustrious brolic
Here.
brand in the world. It's the Bodega Boys,
Just
baby.
one of the
Bodega Boys.
So then I also
Keep
give their like
around, kid.
podcast intro, which is this girl going Bodega Boys. So I kind of like how that layered together. But then when you add the music in,
The most illustrious podcast in the world, just an extension of the most illustrious brolic brand in the world. It's the Bodega Boys, baby.
Bodega Boys.
I kind of love how that flows together. So then we continue to go into, and now actually you'll see down here, I add this whoosh transition to kind of like, as it's transitioning into the next shot, you'd kind of expect that it would have some sort of like theatrical sound. So that's what I added in. So you'll see. it's like revealing the next thing. So when you hear it on top of like the audio, it's faint, but it's still there and it adds to the sound design.
With the Kid Mero, aka the Human Durag, aka Donovan McDab, aka Curve Gotti, aka Triz Khalifa. You know what I'm saying?
So if you don't watch the show, you wouldn't really get this audio right now. But basically, they have these things like AKAs, like if you have a nickname, you say, this is my real name, AKA call me this. So they have this thing on their show where they have this long list of AKAs, and it's just so freaking funny. And I knew like that's such a signature sound and audio clip from them that I knew it just had to be featured in this product video. So you have Mero doing his AKAs, and then we transition into Jesus doing his AKAs.
Curve Gotti,
so you hear that?
Triz Khalifa. You know what I'm saying? AKA skirt loader, jump the curb, hit your fucking baby Maltese, and keep it moving. Nigga, ask me if I give a fuck. I do not. AKA
The Moreno you cannot contain, the human mimic. We're the young era on the racist provocateur Henry Button Cross. Nelson Mandela, Sergio can't see me. So
again, that probably makes no sense to you, but anyone who's a fan of the brand would absolutely understand this. So the next I have, they're obsessed with Maurice Dubois. He's a broadcaster, and they're just obsessed with him. Mostly Mero, I feel like. But Maurice Dubois called into the show one day and kind of gave them a shout out. And one of their slogans, I guess you can say, is "The brand is strong." So here's audio of Maurice Dubois saying, like, incoming news, the brand is strong.
I'm being told that brand is strong.
So my goal here is like, if Deezen and Mero were to see this video, or a fan of the show or podcast were to see this video, they would get the audio. Like it's adding to, it's not only adding to the product video, so it's not just a bunch of shots, it makes it more dynamic, but it also like adds to the character of the video. You know, when you see a product video of, you know, Michael Jordan shoes, you'd expect the sound design and the music choice and the shot selection would somehow mimic his brand in some way or tell a story that resonates with him. So that's what I just aimed to do with this video. And then I ended with Mero saying BX is in the building, y'all. And then it's just the music from there on out. I got this track from Motion Array, actually, and that's where I get all of the music for my videos. I know people kind of hate on Motion Array. They don't like it for sound design and for music because there are dedicated and specific resources for that, like Epidemic Sound, Artlist, what am I missing? There's a big one. Music Bed. But I use Motion Array because I get stock footage from there. I get templates should I need to use them. Motion graphics, music, sound effects, everything. It's like a one-stop shop for me for $30 a month. So that's what I'm sticking with. There are great options on like premiumbeat.com, but all of those are a little bit too pricey for me, especially like for what I'm doing for these projects, for some of my freelance clients. Like I'm able to find what I want. Maybe I just take a little bit more time sifting through all the choices on Motion Array. So this video isn't perfect by any means. An experienced filmmaker watching this, or even an amateur filmmaker watching this, could probably pick out some things that they would change. But the point is, I picked up my camera, I pressed record, and I went for it. I want to document all the steps in this process of me becoming a filmmaker. It's important for me, but I also like want anyone who's watching this who wants to get into the same field or be a filmmaker as well, that they see that it's like no one's great at this off the bat and you get better with every single video. And that's my goal, is to just improve by 1% every time. So from here, some people might say, you know, you just critiqued this video, why don't you just make the adjustments or change what you would change? I'm a big believer of doing a project, putting it out there, sending it out into the open, and then just moving on from it. If I were to go back after I get 1% better every time and critique and analyze and edit this video, I'd be editing forever. There's something to be said about like letting work exist as it is and knowing that you're going to move on from it and take the lessons you've learned from that video and get better in your next video. If you could share with me your product videos, whether you're an amateur, whether you're experienced, I'd love to learn more, and I would love to see what you guys are doing. So tag me in your creations, send them to me via my DMs. Any way you can get those to me, do that. And if you're a female filmmaker, consider me part of your network. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is something I'm so passionate about. I want to bring you with me on the journey. I want you to get better. I want me to get better. We're in this together. As usual, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!